I'm going to show you a PowerPoint that I have made about the Krievina culture based on the fieldwork carried out by the main anthropologist who studied it in the 20th century. This is an illustration of the colonial concept of anthropology. Then they still spoke of savages, mixed with the interest of the Western subject in knowing himself through it. I cannot deny that the colonial vision implicit in most of the field work infects later points of view, which is why I want to have opinions from people who currently live in the Trovians and that I hope to present at the end. This is a bibliographic research work in cultural anthropology, which I titled The Argonauts of the Western Pacific 2018, imitating the title of the same name that in 1922 the Polish anthropologist Bronislaw Malinowski published about this day and experience in 1918 on the Trovian Islands in the Western Pacific Ocean east of Papua New Guinea. Malinowski arrived to Trovian Islands in the middle of World War I, and he had to stay there for a year because logistical issues. There are 5 Trovian Islands, Boyova in the center, Bakuta in the south, Kitaba about 30 kilometers to the east, Kaivola in the west, and finally the small one, Tuma, in the north, where the islanders believe their spirits inhabited after death. Trovians are flat athlon coral islands, different of the surrounding ones that are volcanic, lots of them with active volcanoes. In the northeast of Australia, from Papua New Guinea to New Caledonia, passing through Solomon Islands, Fiji, and Vanuatu, and on a multitude of small islands live the Melanesians. Melanesian people are a myriad of different cultures, almost one of them in every small island, speaking different languages and having different beliefs about life stage and death. They only really share their colonial past. Twice a week, there is a flight to Lusuya from Port Moresby, transporting passengers and goods. The Western colonizers had nothing to extract from Trovians. Unlike other islands, Trovianders maintain their culture just like most islands. Their cultures and languages have been preserved in time as they are still the maximum provider of habits and skills for the survival of people, fishing, sailing, practicing agriculture, and their way of life. Obviously, they always coexisted with the colonizers and their technology, medicine, and all kinds of resources in the last 2 centuries. Christian religions of all kinds did their work of acculturation, and chiefs have been to share their political power with them in the communities during the Occidental colonization. When we approach with the plane, we can already see in certain areas a characteristic distribution of the territory. The houses, in a circular layout, around the large granary, where yams, their main food, are stored, symbolizing abundance. Today, the distribution has changed, because next to the barn there is a church that has changed the circulation of people through the town since its installation. A forest surrounds the houses, and just behind them there are the gardens belonging to the 4 Kumilas and where the Caribbeans work. All this happens and has happened hundreds of years in the tropics, in the Pacific Ocean, where the temperature is pleasant and the waters are crystal clear. Let's talk about the objectives of the research work. This is a comparative study on the distinctive elements and cultural categories of the Caribbean ethnic group 100 years ago in 1918 when Malinowski arrived and nowadays, what he saw at what can be seen today. The 10 most relevant topics that Malinowski distinguished in 1918 that identified the people of Kiribati according of its ideology and point of view were Balomas, the spirit of death, Milamala, harvest festival, kinship relations, magic, coloring, sexual behavior, political power, incest prohibition between Kumilas, real knowledge of human reproduction, and totemism. It was very important for me, the investigation progress, because I have underlined and taken notice of each chapter and sentence from the anthropologists who conduced fieldwork in the Trobrians. This has led me to value the distinctive elements of their culture. At the same time, interpeers readings about the Western context and the perspectives of the anthropologists who did these works. It has been a dialectical path between observers and observed that I hope to reverse in the end. The result is the fruit of this process. I made also 2 visits to Kiribati. Here in these slides we can see the most relevant anthropologists who wrote about Kiribati's culture. First of all, Malinowski, with lots of books about it. The most relevant in that time was The Sexual Life of Savages in Northwestern of Melanesia. That was the title, where Malinowski explained the sexual behavior of the people here in its culture. And it was a shock for the Western countries where the relations between sexes were very diminished because in that time. Also, Argonauts of Western Pacific, etc. No? Annette Weiner in 1992 wrote about the paper of women in the culture and even about the endogamy between the chieftain chiefs in Kiribati. Gunther Senft, a German philologist, wrote about Wosi and the language of Kilibila. Jerry Leach and Jutta Malmich, with the chief John Kasai-Palova, wrote an interesting book talking about Kula Ring, where Western people could understand the meaning of this kind of travel. Singing and dancing is a way of expression in the oral culture, most important than in other literacy cultures that what is the Western culture. Studies about anthropological observers were about globalization, the influence of Western culture over other cultures, colonization, and the orality and the differences between orality and literacy in the cultures, and even a book written by Malinowski about his feelings when he was there for a year. Was a book not not written to be published, but was published by his woman 30 years after his death. And then people could see his feelings about women, about the time, the weather, about people, and his feelings uh, that he felt because he was far away from his family, etc. Ways of expression here, a cricket team Let's talk about the Kiriwina's oral culture. This is a society without writing, therefore it's a prehistoric society. Before Malinowski, only some priests uh, had written about something from Kiriwinas. There were nothing written. Then then history begins with writing. Myths and stories explain the past and help maintain the same sociocultural conditions. In the old times, when people live maximum 50 years, pass the culture from one generation to another was something very important. Liliu was a story of events pure to the life of any known person. Myths as Tudaba, Tolikalaki, Topileta were heroes who gave supernatural powers to magicians. There is no magic without myth to support it. In oral culture, single words are full of feelings and emotions. On every concrete scenario, phonetic, rhythm, and metaphorical effects can affect spells and sentences. The language is Kilivila, where rhetoric, music, and poetry maintain and reproduce cultural values. Wosi are songs that talk about kumilas and balomas and are transmitted without writing. Wosi Milamana are songs dedicated to the balomas at Harvest Festival when they return from the paradise to control their properties. A cricket match. Well, let's start with Baloma. When a person dies, their soul or spirit goes to the paradise on the island of Tuma. These are the Balomas. There they forget his wife or his husband belonging to the other Kumila. They don't forget their family properties. They don't age and begin a life free of ties. They enjoy a free sex life like when they were teenagers, while they are in Tuma. Baloma returns to the world of the living, transported by the marine stream, nesting in a womb of a female of its own Kumila. They also return to their village every year at Milamala's feast to check and enjoy the harvest from their gardens. They also participate in the magical spells of their own Kumila. You can see a magician in an old video that we can't hear the song. Milamala, the harvest feast. Before planting, when people don't work, there is a time for harvest celebration with dancing and boiling of love life. Young people not married. Everybody make up themselves with flowers and aromatic leaves. Traditionally, smell being is an important element of identification in situations where magic prevails. People show with pride their gardens and harvest. Everything is blessed and mediated by the Towosi, the magicians of the gardens, with their spells. People pile the yams in their gardens and place them in the typical barns of the Trovians. The festival lasts a month or more, although today it has been reduced to 3 days in many places. Palomas always come to check their properties, and their kumila prepare small altars for them. Yoba is the name of farewell to them when the moon goes away. They are traditionally stoned away so they can live. People lose their fear of them and dance the Kalibum all night. We can see the makeup of the people and children in Milamala festival. The jams are peeled in barns, the typical barns of Kilivina. Let's talk about the kinship. Trovan society has 4 clans or kumila. That includes sub-clans or dala in every town or village inside the islands. Every kumila has totems or sacred animals. That implies taboos or prohibitions for the kumila. The prohibition of incest, subasoba, between the same kumila and the prohibition of eating its own totems are their main taboos. Therefore, each couple member of the couple that forms a family belongs to a different kumila. Those things implies a special distribution of houses in the town and a special circulation of people just to go to the place where they want to go. It's not a free situation for them because they need to respect totems, prohibitions, etc. The kinship is matrilineal and very local. The last name belongs to the mother and the family lives in the father property. The mother's brother and brothers have authority over the children of the family because they belong to the same kumila and will be the future owners of their gardens. Father's role is look after and love children. Traditional father doesn't participate in children's procreation. In the other hand, paramount chief is the exception and is polygamous, with women from different kumilas and towns who provide him with goods and organize big parties, expeditions, and formerly wars. Endogamy is a common way in every level of chieftainships in order to preserve power. Cross-cousin relationship and even between different dalas of the same kumila is a possible pattern of doing it. We can see the young people enjoying their life everywhere. Economy. Yams, the moss, taro, bananas, betel nuts, and sugar cane are the main garden products. Fishing complements the way of making a living. Ownership of the orchards belongs to each dala, and it is transmitted through maternal life in every town. These properties aren't registered anywhere. It's an oral culture, and kumila chiefs, dala chiefs, and paramount chief know the affairs, disputes, and ins and outs of each town and terrain. They always decide in each conflict of interest. This is the power of all people in oral culture. This is a garden.
Esto es el ñam, ¿no? Ñam.
Society. Culture provides the symbols, rituals, and customs that mark the lives of people. Death and mourning. When someone dies, the relatives of their own kumila cannot participate in mortification work and burial of the deceased. It has to be done by people from another kumila, usually that of the couple. Once this is done, the kumila of the deceased organizes a party in gratitude, sagali. There, gifts and clothes, betel nuts, etc. are distributed to the kumila who has done the work. Sagali is a great event attended by many people from far away, and where ties between kumilas are strengthened, promoting exogamy between kumilas. Widows shave their heads and dye their bodies black about a year. Sometimes widows sleep in a room outside their marital home. 1 year is approximately the time to know if a new child belongs to the deceased or not. Sagali. We can see a widow shaved and uh, and with her skin dyed by black. You can see a marital sleeping outside of the house, and here we can see a widow shaved and dyed in black for a year. Chieftainship and political power. Each village and dala has a guyao. Kumilas have chiefs that participate in the council of the islands, led by the paramount chief who belongs to the Kumila Malasi and the Dala Tabalu on the old capital of Maracama. It has been like this since Malinowski's time. Tabalu practiced certain kind of endogamy, subasoba, with Waidaga Osapola, Dala of Ugwasisiga Kumila. The goal has been always the power preservation. The Council of the Islands treats important issues about Dala properties and its preservation, inheritance, the conveniences or not of certain marriages, war, milamala organization, public order, decisions on execution of sentences and their own power. Magic and sorcery have been the traditional methods to pressing people. The Wosi and their spells influenced its islanders to do what the chiefs decided. They have spells for everything, issues as weather, sharks, war, fishing, gardens, love, etc. Chiefs control with the Wosi magic and Wogao, black magic, property rights and in Kilibina language without the need of civil registration, something typical in Western countries to preserve the properties. All is in the mind of chiefs. This is the reason why they maintain their influence through time, despite other supervening powers like the churches and the state. All this structure keeps alive Kiribina's culture. In this picture, we can see Pulaya Siptaniel, the paramount chief in 2018, with the other powers, churches and state. Sexual life. Kubuka Buya is an exclusive concept. During a period of time from early adolescence to marriage, free and unrestrained sexual life is common, usually in Milamala feast. Ulatile, a group of boys, and Kapugula, a group of girls, leave from a village at night by moonlight to meet groups of the opposite sex from other villages. Then they have sexual practices in pairs that change until they find the right partner, always respecting Kumile's exogamy. Once in marriage, fidelity is the rule. Waiwaga is the portion of love that helps to change the desire of unconvenient partners, for example, to avoid subasoba. We can see young people making jokes and dancing, representing sexual behavior. Mewa, magic. Uh, how if it were a kind of science, magic and witchcraft can change the course of things that happen on the islands. In love, in sailing, orchids, under production, the construction of wagas and canoes against dangers of any kind, such as shark diseases, war, fights, weather, any detail, no matter how small, has an impact in sorcery. Balomas from their kumila are the most important sources of magical power. Towosi, magic, and Mulukausi, magicians and flying witches, can cast the spells. Towosi are required to intervene and predict different issues. Faith in magic is the ideology that allows social control of the Trobrianders. The bosses and their sorcerers exercise their power like a mafia, in the words of islanders. Mulukausis, or flying witches, follow the canoes in its travel and eat the cesset if they are not buried. Rotten smell reveals its presence. Sorcery can prevent their presence on sailing. Totemism. Kiwinas people have 4 kumilas, or clans, with their totems. Malasi is the clan, the kumila, and the totem are pigeon, cockatoo, and domestic pig. Lukuba, dog and bird, Lukubasiga, parrot, Lukulubuta, lizard, and more of them. They can eat their totems. Tradition explains that in each town, a man and a woman from each kumila emerged from earth. This justifies the ownership of land. The new spouses bring their own kitchen and utensils so as not to contaminate the other with their own taboos. This may explain why families don't eat together. Unseen beliefs about procreation. Balomas are on the island of Tuma with the same sexual freedom that they enjoyed in their adolescence, always respecting Kumila's exogamy. At a given moment, the Balomas lose their teeth and skin and become waiwa, or precursors of newborns. Then, dragged by the sea current, they go to nest in the womb of married women from the same kumila. That is officially believed. After this long travel, it's going to be a son or daughter from the same kumila. Let's see the Kula ring. Is an object exchange system of 2 items of shell jewelry in Solomon Sea. Is usually accompanied by trade in goods between individuals of different ethnicities and languages. Loncanus, Baga, crossed the sea with faith in an epic dream to possess the Sulabas and Mualis. Great expeditions move in search of Sulabas, cone-shaped mollusk necklace, and Mualis, shell bracelets. Each item travels in one direction of the ring, Sulaba clockwise and Muali counterclockwise. Kula ring extension is more than 50,000 square kilometers. Travelers exchanged at different times every item, always running in its direction. In some islands, some ethnic groups practiced cannibalism, but Kula travelers were respected. Malinowski called them the Argonauts of the Western Pacific, imitating an European myth. Some trophies had names, and some of them were expected for a long time for some travelers. Each exchange had negotiations. Possessed trophies was a reason for pride. Kula implied a philosophy of life that made this adventure a vital motivation. Kula ring was related with individuals more than Kumilas, although as a reason for prestige, chiefs were very interested. Magic and sorcery protected the Wagas and travelers, and influenced weather, sea currents, trip dangers, canoe construction, and everything. Coloring was possible in a context of orality, magic, personal ambition, and freedom. Molokausis, flying witches identified by rotten smell, can ruin a cool expedition and sink canoes. Magic and fate, in their beliefs, are key to cool a journey. Let's see a map with the islands that belong to the Kula Ring. The Entrecasto Islands, Trovians, Woodmark Island, Mishima in the south, etc., and other small islands. The white arrows represent the direction of the necklace, and the red ones the direction of the armbands. That means that one Kula traveler needs to go to Woodmark to look for an armband, and one from Woodmark needs to go to Trovians to look for a necklace. The direction needs to be respected. We can see a waga, a canoe that needs to travel more than 100 kilometers to cross the sea. Faith, magic is absolutely vital for this travel. Let's see the meaning of Kula according to the chief John Kasai-Palova. In a complex society with strict unwritten rules, a dream takes men to a paradise of energy and adventure that makes their goal in life. Each Moali and Sulaba have its own story of dangers, magic, fights, and incidents. Negotiations, knowledge, and preparation, Mosila, are necessary for the trophy exchange. Kasai-Palova, chief of the Kumila Lukuba, describes each moment on the transaction. Monikini, knowledge. The traveler needs to know absolutely all the process. Bulibuakila, falcon eye, decision and concentration. As a falcon, the traveler needs to go to the place where he thinks is going to be a negotiation. Bubuna, like doves creating a climate of calm and trust. Jejila, like parrots with conversation and clarity, a picture moment. Vegu, like the grasshopper, attentive antennas and sensors. Dak, alertness and opportunity seeking. Poetia, flowers, aromas and offerings. Cool experience is a way of personal growth for each of the actors. They need to know all the process and respect the steps of the negotiation. Their families and kumilas participate remotely. We can see a woman with her necklace is an item from Kula ring that maybe belongs to her for years. We can see the arm shell and the necklace, Moali on the right side, Sulava on the left side. We can see a waga with the symbols belonging to the Caribbean culture, and on the right side, myself and a Methodist priest who was also a Kula traveler. That means that religion, culture, and language is not an impediment to be a Kula traveler. This old man has his necklace, and maybe is the thing that reminds him that he was a free person. Let's see the topics in 2019. First of all, Malomas coexist with Christianity, which takes advantage of certain similarities with non-sexual reproduction. As you know, Christianity believes that the mother of God in the earth is virgin. Milamala has been reduced in many places to a wig. About kinship. matrilineality linked to the ownership of gardens is maintained in competition with the imposition of the father's surname by the churches and Western culture. Magic has been reducing its social weight due to the pressure of colonizing religions, although it is still present. Collaring. Still it can be seen cool expeditions with other conditions, as trips with motor canoes. The abandonment of distant communities have left the ring reduced, and now sustained by the ancient prestige. The old trade that accompanied it is no longer essential right now. Talking about sexual behavior, the influence of churches and external influences as aids have changed behavior about it, but Kiribina cultural power with its institutions have been present for centuries. Political power and chieftainships, now in competition with churches and the state, it continues to stay alive because they are the guarantors of the property of the gardens and also in their language, Kilibila. Incest prohibition between Kumilas. Despite the influence of the churches and the West, the relationships between members of a couple from the same Kumila continues to be difficult due to the social structuring of coexistence. Writs and events are governed by the relationship between Kumilas. The couple's emigration to Port Moresby is a common resort. Real knowledge of human reproduction. Kiriwinaan people have always been aware of how human reproduction works. Tradition and customs aren't questioned as happens in almost all religions. Totemism. All customs of not eating some animals have been reduced, but is still a tradition. This slide represents my feelings toward the people of Kiribina. It is a culture full of rules, pressures, customs, and rituals that identify its individuals. It is important that I point out that by doing this work, I have realized that it is a culture full of adventurers and dreamers, capable of crossing dangerous seas. I have realized that freedom is a present value in this culture. Thank you very much.